The two disciples said to each other, "Weren't our hearts burning within us while he was talking to us there on the road?" Last week, some of us were away on a church retreat, and Aurelis said to us, "I have a song I want to sing." My ears picked up because I love to collect songs, as you might have guessed that. And this one had clapping and everything. It went like this. I'm gonna lift my people up, they're not heavy. I'm gonna lift my people up, they're not heavy. I'm gonna lift my people up, they're not heavy. If we don't lift them up, if we don't lift them up, if we don't lift them up, we will fall down. Better try it again. I'm gonna lift my people up, they're not heavy. I'm gonna lift my people up, they're not heavy. I'm gonna lift my people up, they're not heavy. If we don't lift them up, if we don't lift them up, if we don't lift them up, we will fall down. As we were singing, I thought to myself, that's the whole project right there, right? That's the whole Christian thing. That's the whole project, to understand that lifting each other up keeps us all from falling down in discouragement, falling down in frustration and despair, and falling into disillusionment. Gravity doesn't just apply in the physical realm. It applies spiritually as well. There's so much that wants to help us fall down. We got to lift each other up. Falling down. I think that's the situation of those two disciples walking there that day, that first Easter day, on the road to Emmaus. We think of Easter as a time of joy, celebration, bunnies, eggs. That's not the way it was for these disciples that first Easter. Walking on the road in discouragement, in despair, on the road to Emmaus. Today, nobody knows where Emmaus is. Bible scholars posit at least 5 different locations where that town could have been, and as many possibilities for that road that led to wherever that town was at the time. I'm not that troubled by that. To me, the road to Emmaus doesn't need to be a specific place, because we've all walked the road to disappointment, right? We've all walked that road of disillusionment, of frustration and loss, that road of confusion. So whatever its physical location, that's the spiritual and the psychological location that the two disciples find themselves in on that first Easter afternoon. Emmaus, to me, is where dreams go to die, where disappointment finds a dreary home. The writer Frederick Buechner writes that Emmaus is the place where we throw up our hands and say, let the whole damn thing go hang. It makes no difference anyway. So those two disciples are on the road to disappointment, defeat. They have poured their lives and their energy into a movement that has once again suffered a setback, and such a setback. Who can blame them for wanting to walk away? Still, they can't stop talking about the movement. They can't stop talking about the things that have happened. They can't stop talking about Jesus, this iconic Christ, this troubler of the temple and overturner of the tables, the pet peeve of Pilate, the anti-Roman rebel. They remember. And that remembering seems only to add to their doubt and their fear and their confusion. But all that doesn't prevent them from encountering the risen Christ, because Christ encounters them on that road, that disappointing road to Emmaus. Lee told us last week, to encounter the risen Christ, we don't have to be over our fear, right? We don't have to be free of doubt or confusion or our questions to encounter the risen Christ. It's like the poet Tennyson puts it. There's more faith in honest doubt than in all the creeds. Resurrection happened. Resurrection happened. And all those two disciples have to do is reach out for that reality and recognize it when it happens for them. It happens for them. And they fail to recognize it. They fail to recognize it when they are joined on the road by a strange stranger. A strange stranger who wants to know what they're talking about there on the road. But at that, they stop talking. And Luke says they stand still, looking sad. Looking sad. They are face to face with the risen Christ, and they stand there looking sad. They are about to be the first witnesses in Luke's version of the story of the resurrection. This event that's going in time to transform the world. And what do? They stand still, looking sad. They are about to be the first to know the resurrection. In Greek, it's anastasis, which means to stand up. And they're standing still, standing down, standing silent. Anastasis. It means to lift up. And they're staying down. Maybe those two disciples are smart. They don't know this strange stranger. They know Jesus, or they think they do. And they know that Jesus was arrested by the religious authorities, the religious police, for saying the things he said and doing the things he did. They know that Jesus was beaten and tortured and executed by Roman soldiers for doing the things he did and saying the things he said. Who can blame these disciples then for staying quiet in the presence of the strange stranger who comes up to them randomly on the road? But they can't stay quiet for long. They're mystified about how somebody who's coming as they just are from Jerusalem could seemingly know nothing about the events that have taken place in that place in those last days. And in telling the story of those things, even reciting these rough and depressing facts, they find their spirits start to lift. Sometimes I wonder, why did Jesus bother with them that day? But that's what Jesus does. That's the job of Jesus, to bother us, to meet us on the road and try so hard to lift us up. Jesus says, I am the way, after all. Ego eimi hed hodos. And it literally means, I'm the road. I am the road. That's the job of Jesus, to be the road, to be on the road, to meet us on the road of our lives. And so it becomes our job as well, to meet people on the road, to meet people wherever they are, to meet people on their own roads, to try to lift each other up, because that's the way we all stay up and keep moving. Jesus keeps at them until they get it, because they still don't really understand it. He helps them understand Scripture. He stays with them instead of moving on, and after they invite him to stay. He breaks bread with them together after they invite him to eat with them. And they still don't see. They still don't see until he disappears. I love that part. They don't see that it's Jesus until he's not there. Then they see what they saw. I can relate to that. It's so hard to recognize Jesus. It's really hard to recognize Jesus with the stuff people say about Jesus. It's so hard to recognize Jesus with the things that pass for Jesus in our culture. The things people say are Jesus, the judgy Jesus, the narrow-minded Jesus. It's so hard to recognize Jesus. But there's this miracle of resurrection that happens as well. Life that happens in place of death. We can witness that. We can witness the resurrection if our eyes are open, if our hearts are open to it. It might take a miracle. When's the last miracle that you noticed? When's the last time you saw a miracle in front of your eyes? I started noticing them this week. I was like, We were running out of money the other day to meet the needs of new arrivals who come here each Monday, and we were thinking and talking together, wondering if we could keep it going, but then we asked you guys, and then you came through. It was a miracle. It really was, and I felt lifted up. When yesterday's free store was a victim of its own success, and we were suddenly swamped with hundreds and hundreds of people who needed so many things, I let go, and I began to notice not the crowds, not the problems, but the individual families who were finding clothes for their kids and shoes and even toys. At the end, one mom came up to us with her 6-year-old and her 3-year-old, and she'd come late. They were staying at one of the new shelters for new arrivals. All she wanted was something for her kids to play with, and we had nothing. There was nothing left. And suddenly, somebody I never saw before swooped by with a puppet, handed it to one of the kids, and just as suddenly was gone. And I felt lifted up. I never see miracles unless I look for them. When I first came here to St. Paul and St. Andrew in the 80s, I was told that the denomination had just completed an extensive study of the place and concluded it was going to die. I said, wow, that's depressing. And the congregation said, we don't think so. A few of you were here back then. I know, we don't think so. Thanks for sharing, denomination, but we don't think so. Because for followers of Jesus, resurrection is always possible, right? Resurrection is always possible, and resurrection is always happening if we bother to notice it. There are always people who need a lift, who need a hand up, like us sometimes. And whenever that happens, wherever it happens, it's a miracle. That's resurrection. That's the living Jesus. So that's your assignment this week, in case you were wondering. To notice, to see the miracles, to notice the resurrection, and let yourself be like Jesus, lifted up, raised up, resurrected, in the name of the resurrected one who comes to lift us up as well. I'm gonna lift my people up, they're not heavy. I'm gonna lift my people up, they're not heavy. I'm gonna lift my people up, they're not heavy. If we don't lift them up, if we don't lift them up, if we don't lift them up, we will fall down. I'm gonna lift my sisters, I'm gonna lift my sisters up, they're not heavy. I'm gonna lift my sisters up, they're not heavy. I'm gonna lift my sisters up, they're not heavy. If we don't lift them up, if we don't lift them up, if we don't lift them up, we will fall down. Let's stand up. I'm gonna lift my brothers, I'm gonna lift my brothers up, they're not heavy. I'm gonna lift my brothers up, and they're not heavy. I'm gonna lift my brothers up, they're not heavy. If we don't lift them up, if we don't lift them up, If we don't lift them up, we will fall down. I'm going to lift the church up. I'm going to lift the church up. It's not heavy. I'm going to lift the church up. It's not heavy. I'm going to lift the church up. It's not heavy. If we don't lift it up, if we don't lift it up, if we don't lift it up, we will fall down. I'm going to lift the planet. I'm going to lift the planet up. It's